What is the proper use? Not how the, you know, cost saving at all cost business person will use it. We see that already in all the mediocre AI products that we see. I find new examples every week in my everyday news reading that I bring to my own students as an educator, and that I just sort of keep in the bank as like ridiculous things that I see of the misuse of this. But what is the proper use of AI?
That's a really good question. And if I can use an analogy, it's like all of us in post-secondary can drive a car. So I'll bring a Lamborghini Countach into the road here, into the parking lot here, and say, okay, everybody take an individual turn. That car can go from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 2 seconds. How many of us can drive it? Right? Very few of us. We can drive the car, but we can't maximize what it is. So I use that as an analogy to us as an institution and teachers using chat. We've seen chat. We go on and we play with it. We play with large language models. We play with this stuff. We play with artificial intelligence, but we don't understand what drives it or how to drive it well. I have yet to see an institution, all right, collaborate with the creators to say, show us how to drive this Lamborghini.
Yeah.
All right, and maximize its use to its efficiency. We can't do that yet. I hear teachers, we've been to webinars where they're saying, we're using it, it's writing my lesson plan. Are they even analyzing the lesson plan to see what's coming out of it? They're not. They're using it to sound, it's the cool thing to do.
Yeah. Because I mean, okay, so this is one of the examples that I was thinking of. I'm going to bring this up because it's a really funny example. And this is the news from just 3 days ago as far as our recording date goes. So Pras from the Fugees could be going to prison, and he has applied for a new trial. And the charges are very complicated, and I'm not going to get into it here. It basically involves funneling money to very, very sketchy business people in other countries in the other side of the Pacific, and having a few too close connections with the Chinese government not properly registered while he was doing so. But the interesting thing is he has applied for a new trial because he discovered that his lawyer was also working for an AI company, and he went on several media appearances after the trial, bragging about how useful the AI system was in writing the materials for the trial, right? So not just the ordinary things like contracts and application materials, the sort of more cookie cutter lawyer documents, legal documents that you need to have, but he also had the AI write the closing argument. And when Pras and his new lawyers analyzed this closing argument, it was filled with factual errors. So he alleges, filled with factual errors, all kinds of misshaped arguments, statements that conflated several of the charges and circumstances and situations together, and even at some points apparently, so he says, admitting to his guilt. And the defense lawyer did not bother editing this or checking this or running through what was generated at all, but instead simply took what the AI generated, or so is alleged in this application for a new trial, and simply read it as is before the courts as the closing statement. So one of the things we've been talking about is the necessity of, after you have an AI-generated text or an AI-generated lesson plan or something like that, there must then be that human element of looking at it and saying, what has this machine produced? Have there been any errors? There seems to me to be a presumption that AI means errorlessness. So where might the errors come from, and how do we anticipate them?
Well, I'm very active in this area. I mean, my area in marketing is just, my expertise is in marketing technologies, and I'm an engineer myself. So by trade, electronic engineer. So I cannot be rather than pro-technology in the sense that when it comes to helping and aiding humanity, we need to put things into perspective. Yes, this lazy lawyer did not use, and this is, I'm sorry, I mean, I don't mean to offend
this allegedly lazy lawyer did not.
Yeah, because I think at this stage of the conversation about AI, we are at the beginning of a new era. And of course, the technology is not well developed or evolved or had no access or optimized to address these specific needs for the lawyers, for example. But we know for a fact that many decisions in the financial market, good decisions, have been made and supported by artificial intelligence. Indeed, the Wall Street is full of these algorithms, or complex algorithms with technology of networking technologies at speed, and so that connects to Wall Street. So I believe the issue is not how technology will get, or how fast technology will get to get these verdicts, or the preparation for the trial right. I think what would be the role of humans in after this happens, and whether if we have these capabilities to look at this and say, well, that makes sense or does not make sense. And this is where our role as educators lies, in my opinion. But it's a very difficult task, because we are now in a very, what we call general artificial intelligence era, where artificial intelligence can barely handle human tasks. But we're moving towards much more capacity in terms of artificial intelligence, and this is what we call superintelligence, which will be 200,000 times maybe our capacity in reasoning or having access to the volumes of information that are out there. Plus, we are in very close, maybe in 15 years, hopefully 20 years, to the quantum technology that will be boosting by thousands or hundreds of thousands of times the current supercomputing technologies that we have available. So I think it's not the technology itself, it's how can we build capacity using this technology to create the critical thinking, and what will be our roles, or the professional roles that we are looking after as educators, to see what the industry is looking for. Because I'm sure that optimization is something, efficiency is something as an industry. I want to save money, and I can invest in technology, working 24/7, and I don't want to pay people. They have no unions, they don't complain, and then they don't have access to volumes of data that are needed to decide on matters. So whether in the legal field or the finance or marketing, or we are facing major challenge. Nobody knows the end game of this, I guess, based on what I've read. But I think we need to think fast, not slow, about this, because there's a lot in the plate, rather than only, as it goes back to our role as educators, and the role of institutions of education as well.
Well said. And I'd like to add to that, and I agree with everything you said. We have a tendency sometimes to not step back and learn from history.
Yeah.
So AI 1.0, we've been using it for 15 years. Okay, social media, everything along this line, and we know how that turned out. Right? It was created to connect the world. It was created for 2 or 3 really great things, allowed individuals to be able to have their say and do certain things. But what it also did was create teenage suicide and depression. It's shaken democracies around the world. We now have, so there's all of these huge negatives. Deep fake and fake, which is even getting on. So we've seen this happen when we hear the pluses, and that's what business concentrated on. We now know what happens with all these negatives that are massive. With AI 2.0, which is the large language models in this, to your point, are we prepared? Are we stepping back enough to say, can we take the lessons we've learned with social media and apply it to large language models? And how do we mitigate these risks, to your point? And we're not doing that because right now, big tech is doing this fabulous marketing campaign on why we must use it. And everybody doesn't want to look unprepared. And so they're saying, yes, we'll adopt, just like we did with this. We're not learning from history. And this is where education needs to take a step back. Possibly government has to take a step back and say, how do we look at these changes properly and take a long, this is a tool. How do we use this tool effectively?
Of course, I agree.
And we're not doing that right now. And that's one of the biggest risks I see, not removing of jobs. What will happen, right? We know how powerful language is. It's caused wars over millennia. It's caused everything else. These large language models can be incredibly dangerous. And to your point on deep fake, and not now knowing what we can see, anything we see online, is it actually real? There's a huge negative. What are we doing to mitigate that? Those are the risks.